There's a unique kind of devastation that comes with realizing your family is completely indifferent to your suffering. It's not just selfishness, it's a profound lack of connection, leaving you feeling like a stranger in your own life. You'd think they'd be the ones to run to you in your time of need. But when that call for help is met with silence, it shakes you to your core. The coldness of their indifference settles deep like a permanent chill where warmth used to be. It's a betrayal you never saw coming, and it cuts deeper than any accident ever could. After the crash, my first instinct wasn't about my own pain, it was about Leo and Maya. Who would look after them? Who would make sure they were okay? I didn't know what else to do, so I texted the family chat. Simple, direct. Someone needs to get the kids from school. The minutes dragged into hours. No reply. I kept staring at my phone, waiting for anyone to step up. Nothing. And then, finally, Chloe's response came through. Not an offer of help, not even a question about how I was. Instead, it was a selfie. She was lounging in a fluffy robe, glass of champagne in hand, captioned, "A breezy treat yourself Tuesday." I stared at it completely stunned. The silence from my parents weighed heavier than ever, but the image of Chloe in her spa day bubble was a slap in the face. I thought of the money I'd given them over the years, the countless times I'd stepped in to fix things for them. But now, in the middle of my crisis, I was left alone. My family wasn't just indifferent. They had chosen to ignore me. They didn't just fail to show up, they actively decided not to. And the worst part, I was starting to realize I wasn't just angry. I was broken. This was more than neglect. This was a clear message from them my pain didn't matter. The weight of that truth settled in cold and final. The phone rang the next day, and it was my mother. The last person I thought would reach out. I had hoped for some sign of care, maybe just a simple, "How are you?" But instead, she launched straight into it. No softening, no check-in, just a breathless pitch about a cruise she and Dad had found. Apparently there was this once-in-a-lifetime deal, and the deposit was due by Friday. She didn't even ask if I was okay, didn't ask about the kids. It was as if I wasn't lying in a hospital bed recovering from a crash, but instead, she was speaking to a stranger about a vacation. I felt a surge of something cold wash over me, anger, disbelief, confusion, and then the clarity I needed. "No," I said. It was one word, but it felt like a bomb going off. The silence that followed was thick, suffocating. She didn't understand. There was no "I'm sorry," no apology for her insensitivity. Instead, she asked, "What do you mean?" As if she'd just been told she was being unreasonable, but couldn't wrap her head around why. I didn't explain. I didn't argue. I simply ended the call. As soon as I hung up, a strange sense of finality settled over me. It was like a lock turning deep inside my chest. I had drawn a line in the sand, and I wasn't about to cross it for anyone. But that wasn't the end of it. No, it got worse. Less than 24 hours later, Chloe texted me a link to an absurdly expensive handbag. A few minutes later, another message followed. "Mom said you were being weird about the cruise. Everything okay?" It was as if they couldn't even begin to comprehend the reality of the situation. They didn't care that I was injured or upset. What mattered was that I had said no to their request. The manipulation was so clear, so insulting. I ignored both messages. My boundary was silence now. I wasn't playing their game anymore. It was a week after the call with my mother, and I was still reeling. The anger hadn't faded, but the shock of what I'd learned about my family was starting to sink in. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang again. It was Leo's school principal. Her voice was gentle but firm, a tone that immediately set off alarm bells. "I'm calling because we received an anonymous tip from a concerned party," she said. I felt my stomach drop. The tip, she continued, made two specific allegations: that my children were frequently left unsupervised in an unsafe home environment, and that I had a substance abuse problem that I was misusing the prescription pain medication I'd been prescribed after the accident. The blood drained from my face. I couldn't speak at first. My thoughts were spiraling. My mind raced through the people who knew about my prescription, my parents, Chloe. Only they had that information. I felt a wave of cold terror wash over me. It wasn't just an accusation, it was an attack. I knew without a doubt that this came from my family. This was their next move. They weren't asking for money anymore. They were threatening me with my children. They were willing to destroy my life, put my kids in jeopardy just to get what they wanted. The realization hit me hard. It was like I'd been slapped awake from some terrible dream, only to find I was stuck in a nightmare. My family had gone from emotionally manipulating me to threatening my entire world. They didn't care about me, about my well-being, or even my children. All they cared about was getting what they thought they were owed. That's when something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to let them take my kids. I wasn't going to let them control me anymore. The anger was still there, but now it was sharper focused, like a blade. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel helpless. What I felt was cold, calculating clarity. This was war, and I was done being the one who kept losing. I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to take control. I had nothing left to lose. After everything that had happened, I knew I couldn't just sit back and let them destroy my life any further. I needed answers. I needed facts. So I started going through my finances, something I had avoided doing for years, trusting everyone around me. It felt like digging into a hole that had been left unattended for too long, but I kept pushing. I pulled my credit reports, downloaded bank statements, and sifted through every transaction. Hours passed. The frustration mounted. Then I found it. A credit card opened in my name. My stomach dropped as I scanned the charges. There were thousands of dollars spent on hotels I didn't book, clothes I didn't wear, and flights I hadn't taken. And the worst part, my sister Chloe was listed as an authorized user. It was like a punch in the gut. This wasn't a family issue anymore. This was a crime. My name, my credit was being used to fund a life of luxury that didn't belong to me. I didn't feel the anger right away. What I felt was a chilling calm. I wasn't going to let this slide. I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I took a breath and I started making calls. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in financial fraud and filed a police report the very next day. Then I froze my credit with every bureau. It was a calculated response. I wasn't going to be their punching bag any longer. I was done reacting emotionally. Now I was taking control. My future, my financial future, was mine again. After everything I knew, I couldn't let this go without exposing the truth. So I crafted a post carefully, methodically. It wasn't emotional or dramatic. It was just the facts laid out in black and white. I started with the day of the crash, detailing the unanswered plea for help in the family chat. I included Chloe's spa day selfies, the frantic request for money for the cruise, and the manipulative texts that followed. Then I went deeper. I revealed the call to child welfare, the accusations that were made against me, and how I knew exactly who was behind it. Finally, I attached the proof screenshots of my desperate message. Beside Chloe's champagne boomerang, the time-stamped call log from the school principal, and the fraudulent credit card statement. I hit post. The silence that followed was deafening. Then it all unraveled. Chloe's brand partners dropped her like a hot potato. The wellness teas and boutique clothing she peddled were suddenly irrelevant, and the fake luxury image she'd worked so hard to build came crashing down. But it didn't stop there. A cousin messaged me to say Chloe had borrowed money from him for a rental deposit and never paid it back. An old family friend commented about a suspicious GoFundMe page my parents had run a couple of years ago. My family's perfectly curated image, when they had worked so hard to maintain, was crumbling in real time. And for the first time, I felt no guilt, no regret, just a quiet satisfaction. The public fallout was swift and the consequences were far-reaching. My mother called crying, but not to apologize. She demanded I take the post down, pleading with me about ruining the family's name. I didn't care anymore. I hung up. I had won. Finally. In the months that followed, everything changed. The weight I had carried for so long, the constant fear of family drama and financial strain, was finally lifted. My life, once filled with manipulation and anxiety, had become quiet, peaceful. I found stability not just in my finances, but in my own sense of self. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was living. I had built a new foundation, one that didn't rely on anyone else's selfishness. Sundays became our time with Anna and Ben, laughing around the dinner table. My children Leo and Maya felt it too. One evening, Maya looked up from her drawing and said, "I like how our house is calm now." The simplicity of that statement hit me harder than any apology could. Calm. It was the kind of peace I'd never known, the kind I'd always hoped for. And the freedom, it was profound. I didn't need to be bound by the lies and expectations of a family that had never truly seen me. I had finally freed myself. With the money, I was no longer hemorrhaging. I was investing in my future, Leo and Maya's future. For the first time, everything felt like it was truly mine to control. The greatest lesson I've learned through all of this is that family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it counts. The people who truly belong in your life won't make you beg for their presence, their love, or their support. They'll be there without hesitation when you need them most. And it's okay to let go of those who don't. Sometimes walking away from toxic relationships isn't a betrayal. It's an act of self-respect. You have to protect your peace, even if that means cutting ties with the very people you once thought you'd never leave behind. It's not easy, but it's necessary. Life is too short to hold on to people who make you feel less than. You deserve to be surrounded by people who lift you up, not tear you down. I found that peace, and it's the most valuable thing I could have ever given myself. If you're stuck in a situation where you're constantly giving but never receiving, remember this. You are worth more than that. You deserve more. And it's okay to walk away for your own well-being.